Dummy Switch Pod.
Yes, sir.
How quick we forget. we were just in turmoil. What was it? 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, especially against the French, we were just in turmoil. Now all of a sudden we're back to being the world champions.
Good times.
Once again, sorry. Passing over to my illustrious co-host. How are you, Chris?
No, Coders, I'm good. It's good times, man. Don't worry about introductions. By now, they should know who we are. So, yeah, man, look, like you say, how quickly we forget. And look, we backed the boys to do it this past weekend, and they did. So, we can only be happy, and especially against the English and a lot of guys that we put earmarks on to say, this is the game, and they really tick the boxes. So, yeah. I'm happy with the result, but there's a lot to get into as well.
Yeah. I mean, the only guy for me that I would have liked to see more of is obviously Moody. Yeah. I would have liked to see him even potentially come in at 13. But alas, let's tackle this game. England starting off missing penalties, so I think they were jittery themselves. And I think that also, it also comes into the thing that going into this game, we were optimistic. Even when you think about Ireland, we weren't this optimistic going into it. And I mean, granted, Ireland are ranked higher, but traditionally, England are a better team.
Yes.
So even seeing them miss those penalties, they've lost a bit of source themselves. Even kicking penalties, Damian Willemse wasn't kicking penalties. A luxury which Elton Yankees or Polly's they don't get. But he kicks drop goals, so at least there's that.
Yeah, well, look, there's that. But I think, it's okay, even though, like we say, Alton and Police, they don't get the same sort of criteria. But maybe his development is on a different trajectory, so, we'll excuse that. That's fine, But, yeah, England... Yeah, they're uncharacteristic. And for me, like you saw it even before kickoff when they were just standing in the tunnel before, you could see there was a different, it had that World Cup final vibe to it for me, just looking at it, watching from the TV, But overall, they didn't take their chances. And I think they tried to play more like us than, and we did the opposite, where we were now, there was a lot more variations when we're doing different things and different pictures, which they're pretty sure they didn't expect really from us. I think a lot of us, I didn't expect that sort of adventure. I expected to see something different, but yeah, there's been a good development there. So yeah, look, and pressure told at the end of the day, and look, physicality, they couldn't stand up to the box. The pack worked tremendously hard, in their faces. They just didn't give them a time to really catch their breath. They didn't allow them to even play, to try and get behind us. Yes, they had moments here and there, but they didn't really look threatening.
I mean, it goes to people, especially we always, I'll be honest with you, when it comes to World Rugby Player of the Year, autumn, even this autumn series, what I watch the team. That's the prize. That's the prize. And I think people go on about sort of it's a bit not being included, Malherbe not being included, but they showed up in this game, and I feel like that's where it counts. It doesn't matter when you put on the suit and you go to the award show. Where does the real champion, within. Yeah. The trophy, you will throw it away at the end of the day.
And everybody knows. I think that everybody really knows. Deep down, even those guys that get those awards, they know, some of them know that, hey, I didn't really, there was some guys that were better than me, they just thanking their lucky stars that, hey, listen, they'll take it, but at the end of the day, like you said, it's a bit, the class, the experience that shone through, that physicality is just immense, and how vital he is for the Springboks, it just showed. But I mean, exactly. He's supposed to be the marquee player for England, but I mean, there's no competition. There really isn't.
Yeah, there's no competition when you're talking Itoji, Etzebeth. I mean, obviously different players. Even when you're talking Vunipola versus Malherbe, in the beginning, it was actually a bit of a lottery. And Vunipola was getting bailed out a bit in the beginning, but then the ref quickly came to his senses.
Yeah.
Other than that, Evan Ruiz unlucky with him spinning out of that. It was a bit of a mess there. The ref blew the whistle a bit too fast. First off, also, again, if we go to Willemse, this is where you excuse him for his goal kicking when the Stormers blueprint when, just an aimless kick, that counter, the Stormers blueprint, and he had guys, Willie Leroux and Curtly Arendse, who they mimic players that he plays with.
Yes.
So it was great try.
Great try, but note the difference in terms of the work rate and how the difference last week and this week in getting behind the ball to give those options. Okay, granted, Willem had to do a lot of the hard work to get outside of Stewart or whoever the fullback is for England. But then the running lines, the supporting lines were absolutely brilliant, But I must say, different angles show the pass may have looked forward. Both those, I'm just saying, right? Do you know what I'm doing here? I'm just showing that as South African fans, we can also sometimes see the calls that go our way. This time we got the rub of the green, because on another day, let's be honest, they could have easily just said, call that back and said no, forward pass, and we would have been talking about that, So that's why I'm just saying that, there are certain instances where, and it happens in the games where there's the laws aren't really, where 50-50 calls, they go to the one side, and this time we got the benefit. I really believe that. Like I say, the different angles, can provide the case, but at the end of the day, we cannot take away from that counter attack. It's wanted to see something different. We've seen a different aspect of it, and those guys are just hungry to play with ball in hand. And I mean, if you've got finishers, and we called for it to say use the weapons, use them to their full effect, and we saw that with that counter attack, and especially getting Curtly Arendse away. And I don't see where Marcus Smith was there, but anyway, I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah, I think the feeling at that point was that the Springboks got under their skin, Faf de Klerk especially. We saw that's when their discipline started to erode. Yeah. And, he seems to have gotten that jersey back. It seems like it's his. Jaden Hendricks, unfortunately. But I mean, he's still the big loser is Herschel Jansch's in this equation. Yeah. But obviously you want to hold on to that position. And I mean, just to go back to what you were saying in terms of South African fans sometimes blaming the ref too much. It's funny because week to week you see it now with England fans posting pictures of scrums with arrows pointing in directions to try and say that Malherbe was scrumming in, things of that nature. But I mean, we got our own medicine with Dutoy getting red. Yeah. So I mean, personally, maybe I'm not being objective enough, but I feel like there were the right calls, and we even got that red, and it was the right call.
It was the right call. Yeah. Look, there were a lot of right. There were a lot of right calls, a lot of good calls. I think it was more. That was like a real game where it was, let the players decide the result. Let the player decide the result, and the referee as well. You could see he was doing his best to try not be a fixture or to feature so much in that game, which was different. I mean, from what we've seen from Angus Gardner, to be fair, and I think probably that the discussion that was allegedly had with World Rugby and one Mr. Rassie Erasmus, maybe that also influenced the decision, or not decision, but influenced the way that the perspective of the way that the referees now are seeing us, because it had to take a whole lot of noise before somebody could be heard, and for years, I mean, you can even go back and see, how you can pick incidents where South African rugby, you could say we've been hard done by World Rugby, by the officiating. So, this was bound to happen at some stage. And look, at least they're getting to a point where there's dialogue, and we saw the effect of it this weekend, where it was sort of a balanced refereeing performance for both sides, because if England were better, they would have taken their chances, and the play would have won the game for them, But on the day, South Africa were just too good, had too much, they wanted it more, and they backed it up.
For me, if I'm nitpicking, again, Willemse defends for that other England try. And again, goal kicking is going to be a problem when going forward. If Faf is kicking, it's not. If you have more than one goal kicker, you don't have a goal kicker, in my opinion. So I think that sort of wraps it up for the Springbok game. My question to you is, what's going on down at the Sharks? And my second question is, how many weeks before other franchises start going shopping at the Sharks, like the Sharks do to other franchises?
Yeah.
The tide is turning, and it's lovely to see.
Oh, lovely for you, not for me, and certainly not for the Sharks. But I think we actually touched on this before this international break, where for me, I know I said it, that look, it looks like it's just the raw talent of the players just coming through, and the Sharks need a bit of a stronger. Yeah, they just need a stronger personality steering the ship, and that result is inexcusable. That result just shows that, yes, maybe Everett may be a good coach, but for the top level, maybe not. And to manage such big personalities, such a big group, I don't think, at the end of the day, it was eventually the wheels were going to come off, for him. And look, you can't blame the guy. He was just, the Sharks are going in a particular direction as a franchise. I mean, you look at the roster that they have, all the acquisitions, the coaching group that they're putting together. Look, he was just in that transition phase, and by them appointing Neil Powell, director of rugby, the writing was already on the wall, because, yeah, he couldn't reach those heights of 2020 Super Rugby again. With the Sharks, they haven't been able to hit those straps, and look, it finally came to tell. The other side of it is that there's a whole lot of new guys that were brought in as well. You can understand there, but at the same time, it's like the franchise that you are, the guys that come in, the system needs to be so efficient that it doesn't matter whoever's coming in, you can still get the result, and not get hammered like that at home. There was no cohesion. There was nothing there. You can't pick out anybody and say that they had that they were poor. They're very, very poor, and it's not good to see. Hopefully they can turn it around. But that's a big smack to the mouth. That's a big one.
It's definitely a big loss, especially in the URC, which I'm gonna say is a terrible tournament. It's a terrible tournament thus far, and the only reason why we're in the URC is so that we can play Champions League of Rugby and Europa League of Rugby.
Get those bucks in.
Yeah, and get that money in. But yeah, no, Sharks, Springbok midfield, Chituka, who should be a Springbok, Noche, Springbok, Gebran Grobler. These are real players, and getting smacked in the mouth like that. And the URC is trash, because if we look at the other results, Stormers were very impressive, especially without their box. You can see that continues. The culture continues. Lions, same thing as well. Bulls, same thing as well. Again with the Bulls. The only thing I will say is that the Stormers were at least entertaining. Even as a Lions fan, it wasn't great to watch. Wasn't great to watch. I watched the Bulls game. Wasn't great to watch. Sharks game again. And that's where it becomes an issue, because it's like, even when we're winning, it doesn't feel like it's worth watching, let alone there's times when the Chiefs were playing the Blues and you'd make sure you watch it. You make sure that you watch it. Even the Australian games, you make sure that you watch it. URC, there's no way you're watching other teams unless you're the most diehard of the diehards.
No, that's true. I think a lot of probably in South Africa, the South African fans they're watching every franchise. But you're not going to watch Munster, Leinster, even though it's a big clash that side. But you're not really invested in that. You're not going to watch it, as opposed, like you said, Chiefs, Blues, or Blues Crusaders game as an example.
I would actually argue that you're more likely to watch Munster versus Leinster in a Heineken Cup match when we didn't have URC.
Yeah.
But now we have URC and we get to watch that game and nobody cares.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think the Stormers, out of all the teams that you mentioned, okay, the Stormers look like they're still building on that. They're building on that success that they had last season, and they're looking more like that team that's got that sort of dynasty vibe about them. Yeah, there's that dynasty vibe about them. Even though, like, I wasn't too impressed with Angelo Davids. Defensively, he just looked lost at sea sometimes out wide. In midfield, whenever he was called upon on turnover ball, he was good. But out wide, he just looked lost a little bit. But hey, I think he'll get better for sure. But overall, just the way that the Stormers play, the way that they were playing, and I can see it's like they were trying to keep the ball away from the breakdowns. And when you look at it, I had a chance to look at the Stormers game, Bulls game, a bit of the Sharks game. Is with these European teams is, if you're keeping the ball away from the breakdown, because
Especially the Sharks game.
yeah. And the Stormers did that well, and I think they might be onto something. And keep an eye on what they're trying to do going forward, especially going into the Heineken Cup, because I think that's a different beast on its own, because of the various internationals. And the breakdown is a very, it's always 50-50. And what the Stormers were doing did this weekend, I like the way that they were trying to play, trying to keep the ball alive, even though sometimes it can be irritating, looks like touch, but I think they're onto something, going forward. And you can see that the coaching, the group, everything is working well for them now. At one stage it didn't look like it and we were bagging them, but now, we got to give them their flowers. Bulls, Bulls are the Bulls. I like the way that they play the set plays. Similani, I can almost see what they're trying to do with Similani now. Like after watching a bit this weekend, is that, look, give him, let's give him time. I think Jake White might have a sort of plan with him, and we can see how he develops. Bulls will always be the Bulls. Lions is good for them that they're getting the wins. I think it's important. Build that confidence for them and get better play. But yeah, the Sharks. We already spoke about the Sharks, but overall, like you said, the tournament is not really the best. So yeah, we have to see what the product is going to be in Heineken Cup.
Closing remarks.
Look, I'm just hoping Sharks can just pick it up. The rest of the guys, just keep on going, and then let's see what we get in Heineken Cup in due course, and then let's keep supporting the boys. But the Sharks, I'm distraught.
Yeah, box are done for now. I think it was an interesting window.
Yeah.
Questions were posed, questions were answered. Back to URC, which is trash, and Heineken Cup and the Europa League of European rugby as well, which the Lions are gonna win. Yeah, most interesting for me was definitely that window, and I feel like it was part of the saga. It was part of the Springboks saga.
Let's see how it goes, but I think Boks are in a good place.
Yeah, and that's it for us. Dummy Switch Pod. Thanks for watching.